Hello and welcome to Renew, the show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. The College of Forest Resources promotes and enables the conservation, management, and wise use of our natural resources. I'm your host, Leslie Berger. Today's show will feature the Department of Forestry, which is one of the 3 units within the College of Forest Resources. And here to represent that unit is Professor Jie Yang. So thank you. It's a challenging to me as someone not from China to be able to pronounce names that I'm not familiar with. I suspect that you coming to the U.S. faced some challenges as you were studying forestry. So tell me a few of those challenges that you ran into, besides people stumbling over your name.
My name is actually the challenge for the American people. A lot of people, they say my name as Jia Yan, but in China, people say Jia Yang. It's okay for me. But when I first come to the United States, I was at Auburn University. I get my PhD degree from a School of Forestry and Wildlife Science at Auburn University. From 2010 to 2015, I get my PhD degree from there. In that 5 years, I used the remote sensing, the spatial technology, and also I used the ecosystem modeling to study the ecosystem dynamics at a large scale. So after that, from 2015 to 2018, in that 3 years, I work as a research fellow, still at Auburn University. I continue my research. In that period, my research focus on the fire at the regional level, like the Western United States, and also the fire in the Boreal area, in Canada, in Alaska, in Russia. Sure. Some of my study also focus on the global fire and the fire burn area and fire regimes and the fire impact on the ecosystems and how much carbon, how much greenhouse gases has been emitted from the fires.
Right.
After that, I moved to in 2018 last year. I come here. I get an assistant professor job here in Department of Forestry. Yeah, that is my track.
Yes, well, I'm glad that you're here and you're able to bring your expertise with these remote technologies and particularly with fire. It's an important tool that we use here in Southeast to manage our forests. It historically used to occur naturally, and now it doesn't happen quite so much that way. It's more something we do intentionally, what we call prescribed fire, to be able to create the ecosystems that we want. So I think your expertise is going to be is a great asset to our college. You brought some slides to show us that kind of outline some of the work that you're doing both as a researcher and then how you can take that content from your research program and then use it in the classrooms. So as we go through these slides, would you explain a little bit about what we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so this first slide is about an integrated study method. So tell me about this.
As I said, in the 5 years at Auburn University, I used the remote sensing techniques like the satellite, that is remote sensing part. And the next part is the process-based ecosystem modeling. That is also my expertise. Both of the method can be used to investigate the ecosystem dynamics at a large scale.
Right.
Like the regional level, like the global level, or United States, then like this. But the thing is that before we apply remote sensing and the ecosystem modeling to the large scale, to investigate the dynamics at a large scale, the first thing we need to do is to validate remote sensing data and validate the modeling.
So you want to make sure that what you think you're seeing in these satellite images is actually what is occurring on the ground.
Right.
And that's what you mean by validating.
Right, validating, yeah. So here, from the picture, you can find that there's a plot level measurement. That is I collaborated with the field scientists, like we have a lot of field scientists in our department here. I collaborate with them. They go to the field. I don't go to the field. They go to the field to collect data, like they measure the tree height, measure the biomass, like timber production. They also measure the photosynthesis rate. I use their data to validate remote sensing data and extend their measurement to the larger scale.
Sure, because you can't measure, you can't go on the ground and measure everything.
Right.
But you can with satellites begin to measure that.
Right.
So you can make sure that on this little space, what the satellite sees is really what's going on.
Right.
And now we're going to take that and apply it on a big scale. And be able to understand things in a way that we couldn't when we're relying on people going to the field and measuring it you know, themselves.
Right.
So that's great. So the next slide, what is that telling us about?
Before I moved here, my research focused on the fire. But after I moved to Mississippi, I found that the wildfire is not a big problem for this area. The fire, we use a lot of prescribed fire to manage a forest. But the wildfire, we have a lot of wildfire, but the size usually it's smaller than the fires in the western United States.
Right.
So after I moved here, probably I think my research should benefit the Mississippi state. So my research shifted from fire to the land cover change. Like the slides shows, like the pictures on the slides. This is my ongoing work. In the past several months, I try to use the remote sensing techniques plus the county level synthesis to reconstruct the cropland expansion history from 1850 to 2018. That is a 169 years history. So, the before the 1970s, cropland expansion is the main trend. So we don't have a lot of afforestation in that area, in that period. But after 1970s, in 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s, we have a lot of afforestation. So cropland area decreased, and the forest area increased.
So by afforestation, what you mean is we're taking areas that were cropland and returning them in some cases to forest. And so historically, the delta of Mississippi, which you were showing right there, was largely forested because it was the Mississippi River floodplain. And then those trees were removed and turned into cropland. And starting in probably the 80s, then is when you were saying, then some of that cropland was being taken out of production and being planted back to trees for a variety of reasons. And so you're able to use this technology to be able to show those changes in land use over time. The cool thing is that I use GIS and remote sensing to show not only the temporal pattern, not only the long-term trend, but also I can show the spatial distribution of the cropland in a very, very long history. Yeah, that is a cool thing. It is. Well, it helps us be more informed about our agricultural production. It also helps us be more informed about conservation. You know, we don't just want to stick it out there randomly. If we know we need to make some changes that benefit both the producers in that area, but also some of these more ecosystem benefits, then we can look at these histories and say, you know, we probably shouldn't be trying to crop here because it keeps flooding every year. We got some forest over here. Why don't we afforest this area, plant this back to trees, and quit fighting the land there, and instead put our efforts toward producing food that we need to feed a growing world population in these areas over here, and leave this be and let it be timber, let it be wildlife habitat, let it be used for carbon sequestration. And so that kind of regional planning is very important.
Actually, that's the next step. After I get this data, the long history cropland expansion and abandonment data, the next step I'm going to use the cropland data to drive the models, to drive the process-based ecosystem model, and use that model to evaluate the impact of cropland expansion and afforestation. Like in the recent decades, we have a lot of afforestation. We have more forest area. What's the benefit to the society? And probably we have more clear water. the forest sequestrated more carbon. We have less greenhouse gas emissions.
Sure.
That is the benefit. That is the ecosystem service. There are some field study on site level. They already they already get some evidence that the afforestation improved ecosystem service.
Sure.
But the problem is that their research focus on the site level. So there is a critical need. We need the information at the regional level.
Right.
The benefit can benefit the entire region.
Sure.
So in that case, I provide the ecosystem modeling approach. Use the ecosystem modeling approach to estimate the benefit, to estimate the ecosystem services at a regional scale.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is back to what we were talking about before. If we're going to impact things on a larger scale, we need to put all these pieces together.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about the work that you're doing is you really taking an integrated approach and using multiple disciplines to be able to answer these questions. And we see that more and more to be able to answer some of these complex questions, we need to bring teams that are very diverse. And bring these expertise to bear to answer these questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've only got about a minute left, but I'd like in that minute, if you can, to explain how you can teach students this concept of working together into teams. How do you use what you're doing and encourage students to take that same approach?
In this semester, I'm teaching one course. It's spatial technology. In this class, I teach the GIS. I teach the remote sensing. I teach the GPS. In the class, I give a lot of labs. So every lab it's a special. Every lab is very special. In some labs, we teach a student how to use a LiDAR point cloud to estimate the tree height, to estimate the timber production.
Right.
Some labs I let the student to delineate the burn area and use the remote sensing techniques to estimate the burn severity. And in some labs, I teach the students how to use the GIS to find the best management practice for the specific forest stand.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great because I think it gives a chance to students to use their interest in technology because they're very interested in the widgets and the drones and apps for their phones, and all that can be brought to bear to answer conservation questions. So that's really very interesting. I appreciate you coming by and sharing some of the work that you're doing. I hope that perhaps we can intersect again just professionally and not just on this show. But I thank you for spending your time with us and teaching us a little more about your work. I thank the rest of you for taking time out of your day to visit here at Renew. I hope you've learned a little bit more about the Department of Forestry and the ways that the College of Forest Resources use an integrated approach to manage our natural resources in the state of Mississippi. I've been your host, Leslie Berger.